Hey, get out of here already.
Thud. My husband pushed me out the front door and locked me out in the extreme cold. It was New Year's Eve. Wait, I'm freezing out there dressed like this. Please, let me in.
No way. It's a punishment for not following my orders immediately. Shiver there for the rest of your life. Ha ha ha.
I bit my lip at the sound of my husband laughing through the door and hugged my own shoulders. I was sweating profusely from the last-minute cleaning, and my t-shirt was completely soaked through as I began to walk outside. After reaching out to my parents for help, I finally arrived at my childhood home and noticed my father's bright smile, which made me tilt my head in confusion.
I know you just got here and you're probably tired, but could you take a look on the balcony for a minute? You're going to see some interesting stuff.
I peeked at the window in horror, wondering what was going on. What? My husband was locked out half naked on the balcony and was starting to turn blue. I couldn't believe what was happening. My name is Nova, and I'm just an average housewife. Edgar and I have been married for 10 years without even realizing it. We have a daughter named Holly who will turn 8 this year. And although we're not wealthy, we're not struggling financially either. Every day our child is healthy and shares their daily experiences with us, laughing and smiling. Living a stable life allowed me to appreciate the happiness in such simple and uneventful days. However, this doesn't mean that life is always free of unpleasant events. I have one depressing day a year. That is a total of 4 days from New Year's Eve to January 3rd. For the first 10 years of our marriage, my husband and I would go back to my in-laws' house every New Year's Eve morning, where I would prepare the New Year's meals with my mother-in-law. And in the evening, I would also prepare dinner and such. Up until that point, it was still okay. Many housewives like me still do these kind of things. However, the problem starts after New Year's. My husband's relatives would gather in his parents' house, and I would have to act like a servant and entertain them. I pour drinks for my relatives who do nothing but engage in trivial conversations or watch TV, prepare snacks, and then wash the leftover dishes. It's no exaggeration to say that this is just a repeated cycle. The only time my mind can be at ease is when I go shopping for ingredients. If I had to choose between entertaining relatives and waiting in a long line at the supermarket, I'd rather do the latter. However, I should mention that my in-laws are not bad people, and my mother-in-law doesn't believe me for no reason. It's just that she holds on to some outdated values. Most of the relatives are elderly and have trouble walking or standing up straight. With the idea that a daughter-in-law is there to take care of the housework and housekeeping, my mother-in-law expects me to work more than anyone else. For their part, the relatives sometimes give Holly, my daughter, an allowance. Maybe it's understandable if you think about it, but I also think every year that I want to relax during the New Year's holiday. That melancholy starts to attack me in the first half of December. I received a call from my mother. Apparently, my father said he wants to spend the New Year's holiday with Holly for the first time in a while. We usually just stop by to say New Year's greetings on our way back from my in-laws' house, so it's been quite a while since we spent the holiday together. I go to visit during Holly's summer vacation for about a week, so it's not like I never see them, but I understand their desire to spend New Year's with their granddaughter. However, I wonder if my in-laws will allow it. I nervously contacted my mother-in-law. To my surprise, my mother-in-law agreed to it. Well, you've been coming to our house for many years, so if your father is saying that, then you should go back home. Make sure to take good care of your parents. I said thank you very much and hung up the phone. I couldn't help but wonder why I needed my mother-in-law's permission to go back to my own home, but there was no point in thinking about it now. I called back and said, I can come home for New Year's, and heard my mother's joyful voice on the other end of the line. It seemed like I could finally relaxed for the first time in a while during the New Year's holiday. The usually depressing end of the year felt brighter. When Edgar came home from work, I told him about what happened today.
Oh, really? That's great news. You're always dealing with your relatives, right? Forget about them all this year and just take a good rest.
As Edgar said that, he gave me words of encouragement. Okay, let's do that, I replied. Then I asked, hasn't it been quite a while since you last saw my parents too? And then, unexpectedly, he replied with these words.
I'm not going to your parents' house, Nova.
Huh? I had thought that Edgar would come with me. However, upon reflection, I realized that while I was happy to be able to return to my own family, it was not necessarily the same for Edgar. Were you hoping to go to your parents' house as usual? If you really want to, we can spend New Year's separately. When I responded with disappointment, Edgar quickly replied,
No, that's not it. No, I don't plan on going to your parents' house. I was just thinking of spending New Year's with my friends this year.
A New Year with friends? You're kidding. Don't make such a boring joke. I know that Edgar has single friends who are free on New Year's Eve, but does that mean he has to spend it with them this year? If he wanted to go to his family's house, I could understand, but why would he refuse to come to my family's house for that reason? What are you talking about? Come with me too. My parents also want to meet you, and there's no rush to spend time with your friends. You can do that next year. However, Edgar stubbornly refuses.
Well, I don't know if we can gather with friends next year, and besides, I don't like your father, Nova. He's kind of muscular and intimidating for his age, and he seems like he would get angry no matter what, so he's scary. I didn't want to feel intimidated on such a celebratory day as New Year's.
My father is a retired firefighter and still does daily muscle training. So I admit he has a more intimidating presence than an average adult male. But to not want to come because of fear of feeling intimidated on New Year's Day. I feel the same way. I don't want to feel intimidated either. But this is not something we've done every year. Do you realize how difficult it is to spend several days at my in-laws' place with no place to call our own, trying to be considerate of your parents and relatives? Do you understand how much of a challenge that has been for me?
It's because you're a woman. There's nothing to be done about.
Edgar raised his voice, exasperated by the argument. What do you mean there's nothing to be done about it? Don't say ridiculous things. Just as I was about to say so, I heard voices coming from the bedroom. Mom! Apparently our argument woke up my daughter. Sorry, Mom and Dad were so loud. Look, I won't make any more noise, so go back to your room and go to bed. I said this and headed to the bedroom with Holly. And then, on New Year's Eve, I was still at home, even though the time I had promised to meet my parents had passed. I should have arrived at my parents' house by sunset, but the cleaning took longer than expected. This year, I had put off going to my in-laws' house because I wasn't planning on visiting them. I was reflecting on this as I prepared to leave while wondering what exactly I had been doing. Suddenly, Edgar emerged from his room, seeming restless. I couldn't accept that Edgar had said he was going to spend New Year's Eve with his friends, so I ended up asking him about it. Hey, are you really not coming to my parents' house? Edgar showed obvious irritation at my question.
You're so persistent. I said I'm not going. More importantly, how long are you going to stay at home? Soon my friends will come over to my place. If you and Holly were there, it would be a burden for them.
That's right. Edgar had decided to spend New Year's Eve with his friends at our house, which was the reason why I had to clean the living room extra thoroughly. This was one of the reasons why the cleanup took so long. Come to think of it, if Edgar had helped with the cleaning, we could have finished earlier. Instead, he only cleaned his own room and then just lazed around. I was quite irritated by Edgar's attitude, but I didn't want to worry our parents any further by going past our agreed time. I did not talk back to Edgar and quietly helped Holly get ready. Edgar then opened his mouth again.
Hey, are you done with Holly's preparation?
When I replied with yes, we finished, Edgar suddenly approached us. Then he forcefully handed me a coat, wallet, and a bag with clothes that were nearby.
All right, now go ahead and hurry up.
Then he pushed us out of the house. Wait a minute. Although Holly was ready, I wasn't quite done with my preparations. I had just finished sweating from cleaning and was only wearing underwear and a t-shirt on the upper half of my body, just in case I got dirty. I had planned on wearing a sweater or something warm since I had heard it was going to get cold tonight. Wait, Edgar, I'm not ready yet. Hey, open up, I begged. But contrary to my plea, Edgar locked the front door. Great, I'm freezing with just this coat on. I even forgot my gloves and scarf. I knocked on the door a few more times, but there was no response. What is he thinking? I considered staying outside until Edgar's friends arrived, but that wouldn't be fair to Holly. So we decided to head to my parents' house instead, walking to the nearest station and taking a train there. I knew that just wearing a shirt and coat wouldn't be enough to keep me warm, so we bought some warm drinks and hand warmers from a convenience store. That's when I realized I left my phone at home. Should I go back to get it? But I doubt Edgar will let me in the house. Besides, if I saw Edgar's face right now, I might punch him. Let's be positive here. Without my phone, I wouldn't have to talk to Edgar until January 3rd. Okay, let's relax with Mom during the New Year's holiday, I said to Holly, and she replied with a cheerful yeah, that showed she wasn't bothered by the cold. I arrive at my parents' house and my mother greets me. Welcome back, my mother welcomed me with a smile, but then looked puzzled when she saw me. Why are you dressed so lightly? It's cold outside. And where is your father? Huh? What do you mean? As I listened to her, I learned that my father was worried when I didn't show up at that agreed time and drove to my house. Oh no, did we miss each other? My phone is at home, so I'll call my dad's cell phone using the landline here. Just as I thought that, the phone at my parents' house rang. I heard my mother pick up the phone and say, "Oh, it's your father. Nova just got home." Perfect timing. My mother motioned for me to take the call. "Sorry, Dad. I was just about to call you," I said. "I left my phone at home." And then my father replied,
Seems to be the case, doesn't it?
Why does he know that I forgot my phone? Was it just a guess? As I was thinking about it, my father continued speaking.
I know you just arrived and might be tired, but could you come back to your house for a bit, Nova?
What is he talking about? My father was the reason why I came back to my parents' house, and now he wants me to go back home? Besides, if I go back now, it'll be past midnight and I'll be welcoming the new year alone. What is my father thinking?
I know it's sudden, but please, I'm begging you. You'll see something interesting.
In the end, I decided to go back to my house. Given the time, we decided to leave Holly with my mother. Going back home was quite bothersome. However, it was very unusual for my father to make such a request. I borrowed some clothes and a scarf from my mother to prepare for the cold. Then I got on the train again. When I arrived home, it was as I expected. The time had passed midnight. As I turned the doorknob of the front door, it was unlocked. I opened the door and entered the house. Then I saw my father sitting in a chair in the living room sipping tea. Wait, has my father shrunk a bit? Although he still had a good build compared to people of the same age, that's the impression I get.
Oh, Nova, welcome back. Sorry for sending you around everywhere.
Although my father apologized for that, that's not what's bothering me. What happened? Why are you inside? And where where's Edgar? Today, he's celebrating New Year's Eve with his friends here. As my father says that, I looked around and noticed clothes belonging to Edgar and a woman's clothes scattered on the floor. What's this?
Let me take a look first.
My father points towards the balcony. I approached there and opened the curtains. On the other side of the window, there were a half-naked man and two women shivering and turning pale from the cold. Of course, the man is Edgar. I felt like I had somehow come to terms with everything that had happened until today, but I realized that their lives could be in danger if they stayed outside like this. So I brought the three of them inside the house. Then I asked my father to explain everything to me again. According to my father, I didn't come back even though it was the promised time, so he became worried and came to pick me up. When he arrived, he tried calling my phone and heard it ringing inside the house. So he thought I was still inside and entered the house without ringing the intercom. Then he saw three half-naked people tangled up in the living room. After seeing Edgar's face, he understood everything, and in his anger, he threw them out onto the balcony and locked them out. I sighed deeply, feeling overwhelmed. Then one of the women spoke to me. Can we just go back to the shop for now? We haven't contacted the shop yet, so it might have become a big deal. When I asked what happened, the woman explained that they were sex workers who were sent to the house for work. They were caught up in the situation and didn't know what to do. I told them that Edgar was responsible for everything and asked them to explain to the manager when they returned to the shop. After that, there was a Q&A session with Edgar. Afterward, during the questioning of Edgar, I discovered that this wasn't his first time soliciting the services of a sex worker. In fact, he had been doing it regularly while I was away at my parents' house. He had also occasionally dipped into our living expenses. When I told him that I wouldn't be going to my in-laws' house this year, apparently he had planned to have a wild time with two sex workers. And according to my father, he forgot to lock the door in his excitement to welcome the sex workers inside. Don't be silly, what the hell were you thinking? Is that why you refused to show up at my parents' house? I can't see you as anything more than a piece of filth. I'm divorcing you. I expect to receive appropriate alimony for damages. Tears welled up as I spoke the words. What in the world has the past 10 years been for? When Edgar heard my declaration of divorce, he clung to my feet, trembling.
I mean, come on. I wasn't cheating on you with just one woman. It was just paid services. And besides, I'm the one who earns the money here. Divorce is too drastic, don't you think?
Due to being left out on the balcony by my father, my husband was so cold that he couldn't speak properly. However, instead of worrying about Edgar, my father pulled him up by his feet from under me. He then brought his face so close to Edgar's that their noses almost touched.
What are you talking about, you fool? When you get caught cheating, you are 100% in the wrong. What do you mean, bought a woman with money? You hurt and made my daughter cry. Don't mess around. You've committed a serious crime by ruining our last New Year's Day.
With that, my father takes his hand away from Edgar. Edgar fell to the floor and lay there motionless. Was this to be our last New Year's together? I had a nagging worry in my mind, but I stood over him and made my declaration. I'm getting a divorce from you, no matter what. I'll inform your parents and demand the compensation I deserve. And as for custody, there's no way I'll let you have it. With those words, my father and I walked out of the house. Afterwards, Edgar and I got a divorce. I was able to obtain custody, and it was agreed that Edgar would make payments for compensation and child support over the course of the next 10 years or so. When I told my mother-in-law what had happened, she eventually came to my parents' house to apologize, and she was completely overcome with tears. My son has truly caused you a great deal of trouble, She repeatedly bowed her head and said that she had disowned Edgar. So I asked her to continue seeing Holly occasionally. I told her that it wasn't her fault and that she should continue to love and care for Holly. As for Edgar, he reportedly received a hefty fine from the sex establishment, in addition to the compensation payment due to this incident. This includes unauthorized extensions without prior notice, sexual intercourse, and causing harm to the health of the sex worker. It seems that the fine could have been invalidated if Edgar had hired a lawyer, but he was already struggling to make payments for compensation and child support and didn't have the money to spare. As a result, it seems that every month intimidating individuals come to collect money from Edgar. By the way, I did let Edgar know that if he ever fails to make the alimony and child support payments on time, I will inform his employer about his misconduct. So he has no other option than to work like a horse to avoid that from happening. As for my father, he passed away a few weeks after the start of the new year. In fact, he had been feeling fatigued for some time, and when he went to the hospital, they discovered he had cancer. By the time he was diagnosed with stage 4, it was already too late for treatment. At first, he didn't believe it because he wasn't feeling any major symptoms and thought it was just a minor issue. However, according to the doctors,
it's possible for your father's health to deteriorate to the point where he cannot maintain his current lifestyle. Please consider it a blessing if he lives for another 6 months.
That's what we were told. So he said he wanted to spend New Year's with us for the first time in a long time. He was hospitalized a week after New Year's Day, even though he and Holly had a great time playing together. Fortunately, he did not suffer much and passed away peacefully after being taken care of by us. It was a hell of a way to start the new year, but now I've regained some composure. I'm relieved that I was able to be with my father during his final moments and that I could end things with Edgar.
At the premarital meeting, my grandmother points to my fiancé and makes a startling revelation. His parents are, in fact.
It is best to stay away from that person.
At a pre-marriage meeting with both families, my grandmother suddenly spoke in a way I had never seen before. I felt the atmosphere freeze. With her mysterious ability, my grandmother pointed out to a man in front of her, and his face quickly turned pale.
This person has many dark spirits attached to him.
My grandmother certainly said that. This is a story about my grandmother and her mysterious ability. My name is Lana, and at that time, I was 33 years old and running a venture company. My family, which is my parents, younger brother, and grandmother, and our family was very close-knit. The only thing that set us apart from other families was my grandmother's mysterious ability. She could find lost items, predict sudden visitors, and even the day when relatives would pass away. The pinnacle of her ability was when my grandfather passed away. My grandmother quietly told our family, who were in tears,
"Don't cry too much. Grandpa is crying too."
She then said that Grandpa had hidden some money behind the closet and that he wanted us to use it. We were shocked when we peeked behind the closet and found an envelope, just like my grandmother had said. My grandmother hated dishonesty, was kind, and was good at cooking. Her favorite phrase was,
"Don't do anything bad because God is always watching."
I grew up under the care of this grandmother with a mysterious ability, and I graduated from junior college. After working at a regular company for a while, I started a small accessory company because I loved using my hands since I was young, and it eventually led to a successful online sales business. Our small, close-knit company only had a few employees, and we enjoyed working together. One day, I received a phone call.
"Hello? I am a futures trading specialist broker."
"Oh, I'm not interested in that kind of trading," Excuse me. As soon as the other person started talking, I tried to interrupt and hang up. Then the person said with a laugh, Sorry, it's me, Lana. It's Chase, remember? We met at the reunion. Upon hearing that, I was taken aback. Chase was a classmate from high school. He was great at sports, top of his class, and very popular with girls. After graduating from famous university, he became an elite businessman, working for a famous foreign company. At the recent reunion, we were excited about his entrepreneurship, and we exchanged the contact information, hoping to have a conversation as fellow venture capitalists. I remembered that and hurriedly apologized. Jace? Oh, I'm sorry. You sounded so fishy, so. Huh, come on, not cool, Lana. We exchanged the contact information for a reason. Anyway, more importantly, how about having a meal together? I want to talk about business. On that promised day, we met up at the very stylish restaurant. There were couples all around, and I was a little intimidated to talk about business in that kind of atmosphere. Chase arrived a little late, beyond the scheduled time. Lana, sorry for making you wait. So, how do you like this place? Yeah, it's really nice, but being surrounded by only couples on a date. I answered honestly. We should also look like a couple in love, right? And I always liked you. I was surprised by the sudden turn of events. Really? I had no idea. I thought so. You are a bit dense when it comes to that kind of stuff. He opened the menu in front of me and smiled. I was overjoyed to hear that he liked me. He was my high school Prince Charming. Since I come to this place often, can I order for us? Yeah, of course. Thanks to him taking the lead, the meal became really enjoyable. When we were in the middle of our dishes, he brought up the main topic. Well, the main topic is, do you have any interest in investing? Investing is a field that I'm not good at. Even when it comes to company finances, I'm terrible with numbers and just leave everything to our accounting guy, Nathan. To be honest, I'm pretty bad at it. Well, how about I support you and you try investing? And by the way, would you like to have dinner together again next time? I got swept up in his skillful lead and couldn't help but agree. Yeah, let's have dinner together again next time. And so, I became close with him and we regularly had meals together. One day, Chase spoke with an unusually serious expression. I love you from the bottom of my heart, now and forever. That's why I want us to date with the intention of getting married. Chase shows up at our meeting place every time with stylish clothes and a bouquet of flowers. Our relationship is like a dream come true for me. I agreed to his proposal immediately. A few days after the proposal, he said to me in a formal tone, Now that we are going to be a married couple, can you entrust me with managing our money? It could also be a good deal for your company, you know? Are you talking about investing? With $50,000, we could double the size of your company by next year. I'm confident. Okay, I understand. But it's a lot of money, so can you give me some time to think about it? I need to discuss with my employees and family. Feeling overwhelmed by the large sum, I decided to seek advice from people around me. Lana, do you trust me? It's for our future. Chase spoke to me in a sweet voice, making I felt like a princess, and I had no reason to doubt him. The next day, he called me with a cheerful voice. One of my subordinates just contacted me, and the situation has changed slightly since yesterday. if we could come up with another $30,000, our future would be guaranteed. Wait, so that's a total of $80,000? That's a lot. I need more details about the investment before I can commit to it, even if I'm not well versed in investments. Chase seemed a little annoyed by my request for more information.
Are you saying that you don't trust me?
No, it's not that, but
Then, $80,000.
investing is all about speed, you know? Wait a minute. Of course, I trust you, but everything is happening too fast for me to keep up. Can we wait until after the meeting with both our families, the day after tomorrow, to talk about the money?
Okay, I understand. So, the money will be ready by the day after tomorrow then.
Although Chase seemed a little dissatisfied, he agreed to wait for the money. He kept insisting that the investment was guaranteed to be profitable. But I started to wonder if it was really that easy to make money. Even though I loved Chase, I had doubts about giving him $80,000 for investment, especially since I wasn't familiar with investment myself. I didn't know how to make a decision about this. Whenever I'm in a situation like this, I always contact my grandmother. When I called to tell her about my engagement, she was very happy. But at the same time, she sounded a little worried and said,
Is that person really okay? I see a lot of dark shadows around him.
Hearing my grandmother's voice made me suddenly realize that I might be doing something foolish because of Chase's sweet looks. Would a boyfriend really demand such a large sum of money out of the blue? Many questions started to rise in my head. I also mentioned to this Nathan, our accountant, who is very knowledgeable about investments, and he was surprised.
Even if you love that person, you should stop investing.
The risk is too high. There are even scams like that. When he mentioned the word scam, I couldn't help but shudder. It was because the words dark shadow, my grandmother said, and the word scam were linked in my mind. From that moment on, my love turned into suspicion and anger. I decided to investigate the truth of the matter and waited for the meeting between both families. On the day of the meeting, both families gathered at a luxury hotel in a neighboring town. After introducing our families, my grandmother solemnly spoke in a way I had never seen before.
You should stop seeing this person. The man right next to you is angry.
The atmosphere of the room became tense. My grandmother slowly pointed to Chase's shoulder and whispered. Chase was losing his words at the sight.
What are you talking about?
Then my grandmother continued.
Not only the man, but also the woman next to him is angry. I can see a lot of anger. And then, someone who wants to take you down will be here soon.
Chase's face turned pale, and he began to panic, trying to stop my grandmother's words.
Shut up! No, I mean, maybe she's just mistaken about something.
Then my grandmother turned to Chase's parents and said,
It seems that both of you are in dire need of money. First of all, does the male person over there have a current illness? You should go to the hospital immediately.
Then Chase's father's face darkened and he said,
Actually, since last year, I've been having stomach problems. God is watching, so go to the hospital before deceiving others.
Then my grandmother turned to the mother of Chase, who looked like she was about to burst into tears.
I can see that you've had a difficult life. But even if you hit the rock bottom, you shouldn't resort to deceiving people like this. Deep down, you really want to be of help of others, don't you?
Upon hearing this, The woman broke down in tears and said, "I'll continue working as a nurse. I promise." At the moment, Chase, who had been watching the situation, suddenly became agitated. "What are you doing? Do your job properly. I thought you had to play my parents' role." As I was surprised by his sudden outburst, the sound of the door opening loudly filled the room. One of my company's employees, Nathan, had entered.
We have done some investigating on you, sir.
We found it suspicious when we heard about the investment offer from Lana. Nathan then opened a file containing the result of his investigation.
Who are you? An outsider? What are you talking about?
Shocked by his loud voice, hotel staff rushed in.
Get out! All of you who have nothing to do with this! Someone remove this man from here!
My grandmother then spoke up saying,
"See? I told you. Someone who is inconvenient for you shows up." What did you say, you old hag?
Witnessing his true nature, Nathan yelled,
"Lana, don't be fooled by this man. This is a scam." What did you say? Don't say stupid things.
Still trying to defend himself, Nathan exposed Chase's wrongdoing by showing articles and copies of SNS posts he found on the internet about the fraudulent investment company. Then, my grandmother calmly mentioned the name of a certain bank.
You are keeping the money you took by deceit in the United Bank, right? The account number is...
My grandmother even went as far as to reveal the account number. Nathan raised the memo with the account number on it and breathed heavily.
I'm going to the police now. Come with me. Please, please, stop that. I'll apologize. I'll apologize for everything.
Can you explain what's going on? I asked in a menacing voice, and Chase started confessing while still bowing down on the ground.
The investment was real at first.
I had confidence in my investment because I had been working for a foreign company for a long time.
And I thought if I could make money, I could face my wife, who looks down on me.
What? You had a wife? I was stunned by his absurd story.
My wife has only lived a wealthy and luxurious life because her family is rich. She's extremely extravagant with money, and I've always been looked down upon by her for being concerned about money. If this investment had gone well, I wouldn't have had to worry about what she said, and everything would have worked out.
Listening to Chase's selfish confession, I calmly continued. In other words, you were planning to steal my money and ran away. Is that right? And your parents are also fake. I wondered if they had taken on the role of his parents for the job. And the two of them immediately bowed down on the spot. Disgusted, I had nothing to say to these three and left the scene. Later, his story was featured on the front page of the newspaper. It was only natural for the police to get involved since he had caused so much trouble. It seems that the police had already begun the investigation when Nathan rushed to the police station with the evidence. Days later, I thanked Nathan for warning me again. Thank you for letting me know, Nathan. I was completely deceived. I thought I met a perfect guy, but it was all a lie. As I lamented, he spoke boldly to me.
Lana, let's eat something delicious when you feel like this. Let's go get some food.
He's serious and awkward, but he thinks of me more than anyone else. He is my now husband. Since that day, I thought I would never have a love affair again, but it was different with Nathan. I had a vague feeling that he really cared about me. Then one day, Nathan suddenly said to me,
Lana, Can you introduce me to your grandmother? And if there is no problem with me, will you marry me?
I was surprised by this sudden proposal, but he didn't back down and insisted on meeting my grandmother. I had been cautious about love, but if my grandmother said it was a bad idea, I would quietly back off. So I agreed to introduce him to my grandmother. And my grandmother said,
Oh, he is the one. He will be your husband.
"What?" I was taken aback, but my grandmother's words became decisive, and I decided to marry him. Now I am happy. 3 years have passed since then, and my grandmother has turned 80. But she's still healthy, and her predictions are accurate. Our relationship as a couple is good, and our business are going well. My grandmother, who has a mysterious ability, gave me a wonderful prophecy the other day.
A lovely family member will come to you.
The day after my grandmother's prophecy, my husband and I rescued a lost cat. In the end, the owner was not found, and we named him Charlie, and he became a member of our family. He's a lively little boy who loves to play pranks and makes a lot of noise every day. "Hey, wait! Charlie!" I am chasing after Charlie with a smile on my face today.
My husband, who ridiculed me for being confined to a wheelchair after an accident, lost everything when our daughter showed me something.
What the heck is that? You were only good at running errands for me, and now you've ruined your leg. You're no use to me now that you're like that.
I couldn't believe my ears when my husband came to see me at the hospital. He looked at my injured leg from the accident and burst out laughing.
Too bad. You're no longer useful to me. We must divorce. And about the family vacation you had planned with me and Annie. Well, of course we are going to have fun without you. When we get back from the trip, I'm going to file for divorce. See you later.
He left waving his hand. He never came to visit me again. When I saw my daughter after returning from a short trip, "Mom, I bought you a souvenir. Here it is."
Oh wait, not that!
"Look at this." I saw the souvenir my daughter offered me, and in contrast to her carefree smile, I couldn't help but snigger.
Please, put it away.
My name is Dana. I'm an ordinary woman who works part-time at our nearby home improvement center. I live in a rented apartment with my husband Colin and my daughter Annie. I'm satisfied with my life in general, but to be honest, there is one complaint. It's about Colin. We met through a friend from college and dated for about 3 years before we got married. In the beginning, he did as much of the housework as he could, but after a year, he gradually started to slack. I was originally in charge of cooking, and he was in charge of cleaning up afterward. And yet,
I will do the dishes after I've watched a little more TV.
It started like that, and then progressed to,
I will wash them up after I take a shower.
Then finally,
I will clean them tomorrow.
It was faster for me to take care of it, which was a big mistake. He got a taste of the situation, that I would eventually finish all the housework if he just gave me excuses and left for later. Of course, we had many discussions, and I pointed out to him that he needed to change his attitude. Even so, instead of listening to me, he got upset and ignored me for several days. I was too annoyed to deal with it and stopped pointing it out to him. The same thing happened with raising Annie after she was born. He fed her milk and nursed her at first, but gradually it became too much hassle for him and stopped altogether. Now I'm in charge of all the housework and childcare. It seems that Annie is still adorable even for him. I sometimes see him playing with her in the house only when he feels like it. He rarely tries to get involved with her on a regular basis. She's still very young and loves her father. I want him to pay more attention to her, not only when it suits him. Anyway, I didn't tell such an unreliable father, but I recently gave Annie an inexpensive digital camera. A few days ago, she found an SLR camera in the closet. It was the one I used to take pictures of landscapes as a hobby when I was single. I hadn't touched it at all since I got married and thought I had lost it somewhere. Somehow, she was very interested in it and wanted to take pictures. I couldn't let her carry a heavy and expensive SLR camera, so I bought her a digital camera at a discount price. She goes to the park with me and takes pictures of the flower, her friends, and the sky and show them to Colin when we got home. I thought she would soon get bored with it, but she still enjoys it and carries the camera around in her small pochette like a treasure. A few months after I bought her the camera, we were invited to visit my in-laws over the summer break. They lived in another state, about an hour-and-a-half flight away. Since Colin was able to take a week off, we decided to stay with them for 3 days and spend the rest of the time relaxing at home. Annie was very much looking forward to seeing her grandparents and had been talking about it non-stop. I can't wait to see my grandpa and grandma. How many more nights of sleep? I'm excited to take a trip with you and Dad. Colin, on the other hand, was not so enthusiastic about it.
It's my hard-earned short vacation. Why do I have to go and see my parents? It's such a hassle. You know, you guys should go there alone. You will be fine without me, right?
Don't be so lame. Your mom wants to see you too. Why don't you think of it as a family trip? Annie is looking forward to the 3 of us going together. Don't say anything to make her sad. He seems to be offended by that, and his face showed annoyance. He started to shake his leg vigorously and changed the conversation to running on errands for him.
Oh, right. I have to fill out some documents for work. Honey, go get my favorite pen right now. It ran out of ink. Hurry up and go.
I have to prepare lunch now. Besides, I have to take care of Annie too. He became even grumpier and slammed his phone, which he had been playing with, on the table.
She's taking a nap, so it's okay, right? I allow you to delay lunch until you come back. Just go.
In my experience, when he became adamant, he didn't listen to anything I said anymore. I had no choice but to go out to buy a pen. I was rushing so that I could get back home before Annie woke up. From the mood Colin was in, he wouldn't have taken care of her even if she woke up. I ran under the blazing sun. I bought a pen at the shop that was 10 minutes away by walk from home and hurried back. It was so hot that I was getting drenched in my own sweat. The glare from the sun was making my vision flicker. I wanted to get right under the AC as soon as possible. I must have gotten heat exhaustion at that point. My knees suddenly went weak, and I fell forward onto the road with oncoming traffic. I knew I was in trouble, and reflexively bent my upper body backward. As I was able to hold on for just one more step, and almost returned to the sidewalk, I unfortunately collided with a bike messenger coming from the side. From that point on, my memory was vague. I only remembered seeing the freaked out messenger from the corner of my eyes. When I next became conscious, I was in a hospital bed. I had an IV tube in my arm, and one of my legs was immobilized by something. The doctor told me what had happened, and I learned that my leg was broken from the impact. He stressed that I needed to rest for a while. I had no choice but to do so since I couldn't really move. I wondered if Colin had been contacted. Annie must have been woken up from her nap by then. Just as I was thinking, the door rattled open and both of them appeared. "Oh, you guys are here." Annie ran up to my bed. "Mom, are you in pain? Don't cry, okay? I will take care of you." While I was touched by her tenderness, Colin couldn't take it anymore and started to laugh out loud. He was making fun of me.
What the heck are you wearing? I heard you broke your leg. So pathetic. You're the perfect wife to run errands for me. But now that you're like that, you're useless. You're only good at doing what I tell you to do. Poof. I don't need you anymore. You're a nuisance, you know. I don't want you in my family, so let's get a divorce. About the so-called family vacation you were talking about. Well, of course, me, Annie, and Mia, no, the two of us would go without you. I'm finally going to be free from my nagging wife. Come on, Annie, let's go home.
As soon as Colin finished, he took Annie's hand and quickly left. I was so shocked by the unexpected turn of events that my brain was in a fog for a while. I wondered what I had done wrong. I had been doing my best to take care of the house and raise Annie. I even worked part-time and took care of all of his errands. I had worked so hard and tried harder, and that was the result. I couldn't accept the reality, but I couldn't stay in denial forever. At any rate, I had to inform my in-laws that I wasn't able to visit. Divorce or no divorce, I couldn't go anywhere with my leg anyway. I asked the nurse to get me a wheelchair and went outside. I could have made a call from my bed, but I wanted some privacy from the other patients in the same room. "Hello, Anna? I'm sorry, but I can't make the trip. I broke my leg today. Colin and Annie will go without me." "Yes, I heard. You take a good rest and get better soon. Colin said that they won't be coming here though." It was strangely quick for him to contact her. In fact, he had never contacted her himself before. He was always too lazy to do that kind of thing, so I was always the one to do it. "Hello? Oh, I'm sorry, I have to go. Excuse me." He canceled his trip home. What he said earlier sounded like he was traveling with Annie though. The destination must have been changed from his parents' place. Besides, unless I misheard him, he said it was him, Annie, and Mia. I didn't know any Mia, but maybe she was his mistress based on the way he suddenly mentioned divorce. There was no evidence that he was having an affair. Even if I wanted to confirm it, I was stuck in bed. It was frustrating, but I could do nothing but agonize over the situation. 5 days passed. I was supposed to stay in the hospital for a week, but I couldn't stay there any longer and forced myself out. I texted Colin that I was getting discharged, but he didn't reply. Of course, there was no pickup either. That was to be expected, since he didn't contact me to see how I was, even once during the hospitalization. Since he was unreliable, I had to ask my friend to buy me a change of clothes and pick me up. She drove him back to my house and helped me change from a wheelchair to crutches. I let her go once I got in the elevator, taking a mental note to thank her when I was better. "I'm home." "Hi, Mom. Welcome back." Annie hugged my uninjured leg with a sparkling smile. I might have made her feel lonely, but I was glad to see her cheerful as usual.
"Oh, you're back. Look, I had my lawyer prepare the divorce papers for us. I already signed my name. By the way, I will take custody of Annie, okay? When you are doing signing, pack up your stuff and get the heck out of here."
Colin, who looked tanned, was sitting on the sofa, looking as arrogant as ever. What are you, crazy? Even if we were to get divorced, I won't give you custody. How do you plan to raise her properly when you have been leaving the housework and childcare to me? When I fought back, he smirked confidently.
What are you talking about? I'm the one who earns the money. I'm the breadwinner. If she stays with you, a part-timer, she will suffer financially. And as for housework, well, that will be no problem at all.
It hit me then. He was having an affair for sure. If he took Annie with him, there was someone else who was going to take care of her and do the housework as well. I still had no proof. Seeing that I couldn't say anything back, he was humming a song and started playing with his phone. At that moment, Annie brought something from her room. Here is your souvenir. Look! I looked at her hand and saw the digital camera she always used. She was trying to show me pictures from her trip. Thank you, sweetie. Let's have a look. I was in the middle of an argument with Colin, but I couldn't ignore her. I took the camera and went through the image stored in it. My mouth was agape. The beautiful beach, the blue sky with white clouds, and flowers on the roadside. In between all these, there were extraordinary photos. Colin and an unknown woman holding hands, Colin wrapping his arm around the woman's waist, and the two of them arm in arm. There were many images that could have been used as evidence of their affair. I mean, not could have, but they were crystal clear proof. There was no way for him to excuse himself. Hey, it looks like you had a lot of fun on your trip. I confronted him with one photo after another, and his arrogance fell apart.
Why, Annie? Why did you take those pictures?
I quickly avoided him, who was trying to grab the camera and fell down on my bottom. I hid the camera from him, and he began to make pathetic noises.
No. We just happened to meet each other on a trip and became friends.
Is that true, Annie? It's Mia. We took the plane together. He didn't expect his little daughter to hammer the final nail in the coffin, and he fell to the ground with his head in his hands. Well, let's get a divorce as you want. I'm thankful that you've already found a lawyer, so let's go and see him together. Of course, I will take custody of Annie. Also, I forgot to mention that I've been asked to work full-time at my job. I have some savings from when I was single, so I think we should be able to live well enough. Now, if you understand, you better pack your stuff and get the heck out of here. He couldn't even stand up for a while, but just held his knees and shed tears. For a while after that, I was extremely busy. I had to go to rehabilitation for my leg and go through divorce proceedings all at once. Still, there was a sense of progress toward a new life. And then, Colin became my ex-husband. Of course, I demanded alimony for his infidelity. I was also relieved to have been granted custody of Annie. I found out later that he wanted Annie just to keep his mistress around. She loved children and was apparently very fond of Annie. However, since it became impossible for her to see her, she, who thought she could become her mom, became disheartened and disappeared. Colin then turned to his parents for help. His mother was furious that he canceled the visit and had an affair trip instead and didn't want anything to do with him. He did nothing with housework or childcare and treated me as a convenient errand girl. On top of it all, he dared to cheat on me, which led to his sad ending. I hope he considered it an expensive learning experience and changes his ways in the future. Annie and I moved out of the apartment we were living in. It was too big for the two of us, and I didn't want to be reminded of Colin too much. We are not that far from our original apartment, though. I felt sorry for Annie if she had to be separated from her friends for adult reasons. She is taking pictures in the park again today. I'm inspired by her and got back to my camera as well. Her excited face reminds me of myself back then, when I was crazy about photography. Using an SLR camera that has been forgotten in the storage room, I shoot Annie looking happy with her camera. I feel a strong sense of responsibility to keep protecting her smile forever.
Encountering an ex at the hospital, a 37-year-old pregnant woman deals with insensitive remarks from a former doctor spouse.
What? Getting pregnant at 37 is disgusting. She's already an old hag.
I ran into my ex-husband at the hospital on my way to a routine checkup. He spewed insults at me with a smirk on his face, leaving me speechless. I am 37 years old, certainly not young anymore. For me, who is determined to become a mother and protect this child while facing risks and battling anxiety every day, my ex-husband's heartless words deeply pierced my heart.
By the way, after I dumped you, what kind of man did you seduce? Did you seduce another young man? Well, no decent man would marry an Asian woman like you.
My ex-husband laughed. However, at that moment, not only me but also the people around us froze. Stop it! How rude! Don't you know who this person's husband is?
Huh?
First, let me talk about my ex-husband. My name is Zoe. From an outsider's perspective, I was supposed to have been living a happy married life until 5 years ago. Floyd, my ex-husband, was a doctor. When we first met, he was still a fledgling intern. Meanwhile, I worked at a cafeteria near the hospital where my ex-husband worked. It was a 24-hour cafeteria that offered delicious meals anytime. For busy physicians and particularly inexperienced interns, the cafeteria was like an oasis where they could easily stop by and enjoy delicious meals anytime. My ex-husband Floyd was also a regular customer who would often come to the cafeteria looking exhausted. He would always come late at night. While eating a set meal after 10 hours of not eating, my intern ex-husband would often vent about his struggles.
Maybe I'm not cut out to be a doctor.
He said this after being tired of hard work. Since I worked in customer service, I did my best to comfort my ex-husband, who had a pale face, and ease his burden, even if only a little. That's not true. You're doing a great job as a doctor.
But I'm always getting scolded by my senior doctors. Even the nurses complain that I'm not efficient enough.
You don't have to worry about other people's complaints. At least I know all the doctors are doing their best for their patients. Now, would you like some more bread?
Yes, please.
Thus, listening to the problems of young doctors like this was also an important role of the 24-hour cafeteria. Not only satisfying customers' stomachs, but also their hearts. That was the management policy of the cafeteria owner, and as someone who had worked there for a long time, I had faced the worries and complaints of many doctors. I believe that many people were able to recover from their struggles through this. As for my ex-husband, the effect was beyond my imagination.
Zoe, you have given me the confidence I need to be a doctor.
After finishing his internship and standing on his own, my ex-husband faced me directly and made an appeal.
I think I'd be lost without you, Zoe. I want you to continue to stand by me and support me as a doctor. Not as a cafeteria worker, but as a woman.
It was a proposal. My ex-husband had already even prepared an engagement ring. But we have an age difference.
That doesn't matter. Zoe, you're only 31, so I don't think that's anywhere near being an old lady. Sure, there's a bit of an age gap between me at 25 and you, but I want you, Zoe. No, it has to be you.
The deciding factor for accepting the proposal was his sincerity. I wanted to support him. Even his childish side was an attractive quality to me at the time. We soon got married. I went from being a cafeteria worker to a doctor's wife. I knew that some people made fun of me for being after money and criticized my age, but I didn't think it was a problem. As long as we loved each other and stayed committed to each other, everything would be fine. But it seemed that way only briefly after we were married.
Hey, you're old.
I was hit by ruthless verbal abuse right in front of me.
Put on more makeup. Your face is embarrassing to show to people.
Don't say it like that.
Look at the wives that my colleagues bring to hospital parties. They're all young and beautiful, and they all have decent education. On the other hand, what about you? You worked at a cafeteria right after graduating high school, didn't you? It's obvious that you don't have an education.
But
from now on, I won't take you anywhere with colleagues. You just need to do housework at home. Having an old wife like you is really embarrassing.
looking back now, I realize that this was probably my ex-husband's true nature. Proposing to me, saying he didn't mind me being older, was just a whim. No, to him, it was the biggest mistake of his life. Maybe until he met me, he had never really dated any women. He was too busy studying to become a doctor. But as he became more successful in his career, he gained more confidence as a man. Looking at the partners of his colleagues, they were all young, beautiful, and well-educated women. In contrast, his wife was. My ex-husband clearly regretted marrying me, and in fact, I endured a lot of verbal abuse from him within a year of our marriage. Old hag, ugly, uneducated. It was true that compared to the wives of his colleagues, I lacked youth and beauty, so I endured the verbal abuse he threw at me. However, my ex-husband would even scoff at that. Oh, what's this? It was while I was taking care of my ex-husband's suit. In his suit pocket, I found a receipt for a credit card payment. When I checked the contents, I found evidence of large purchases of brand-name bags and shoes at a high-end store. I immediately questioned my ex-husband. Did you give these to some women? Women's bags and shoes?
Shut up! It has nothing to do with you, old hag.
Don't say it has nothing to do with me. This brand here is popular among young women, I think.
Oh yeah, I bought it for a certain woman. She's much younger and prettier than you are. I met her at a drinking party with colleagues.
A drinking party?
Yeah, don't get all worked up. It was a gathering of young doctors and college girls from top universities. Her name is Kate. Unlike you, she's a well-educated lady.
I was speechless. It was a clear confession of infidelity. My ex-husband was probably not only meeting this woman at group dates, but also privately. That's why he was spending so much on expensive gifts for her. The fact that he didn't even try to hide it from his wife was unbelievable. In a nonchalant manner, my ex-husband continued speaking.
When I told Kate about you, she said she feels sorry for me. A young guy like me with a good income, married to an old woman like you. She was worried that I was being deceived.
Deceived? What are you talking about?
That's why I've made up my mind. I'm going to divorce you, an old hag, and marry Kate. You're just a hindrance now.
What?
Oh, and don't be greedy and ask for alimony, okay? You are already lucky enough to marry me. Just go back to being a cafeteria lady. Oh wait, that's what you are.
I will never forget the mocking laughter of my ex-husband that I heard at the time. He denied my very existence. As a wife, as a woman, and even as a human being. He even denigrated my original profession. I had told him he could get back on his feet in that late-night cafeteria. Once I realized what kind of man he was, I had no more lingering feelings for him. I did not seek alimony or property. The lawyer who intervened said, "Let's fight," but all I could think of was to leave my ex-husband's presence as soon as possible. I hated even breathing a second longer in the proximity of such a man. After the divorce, I found out that my ex-husband had quickly remarried. His new partner was Kate, the recipient of the name brand bag. I received an email from my ex-husband with photos of their wedding, but I decided to delete them and never have anything to do with them again. And then 5 years passed. I lived a quiet life, working as a clerk, away from my ex-husband. Those 5 years slowly healed me from the exhaustion of living with him. Luckily, I met a sincere man of the same age, and we got married shortly thereafter. I was carrying a new life in my belly. Although people around me were worried about my pregnancy at the age of 37, my husband encouraged me, saying,
"It'll be fine with modern medical technology."
And I was able to safely reach the 6th month of pregnancy. It was during a regular checkup at a nearby university hospital that it happened.
"Hey, Zoe."
In the hospital corridor, the person who called out to me was my ex-husband, Floyd, whom I had divorced. For 5 years, we never saw each other at all. I had no idea what my ex-husband, Floyd, had been up to, since he only contacted me once to send me wedding photos, which felt more like harassment than anything else. After 5 years, my ex-husband, who had gained a dignity befitting his age, grinned when he saw me, his gaze immediately settling on my belly.
"What is it? You're pregnant? Even though you're getting older? You've got such a big belly."
"I don't care about you anymore. I remarried too."
"I can't understand that guy. You're already 37, right? Getting pregnant at that age, to be honest, is disgusting. You're practically a grandma now."
After 5 years, my ex-husband's abusive language had not changed. He was still a terrible man. Not only that, he even made fun of my unborn baby. I knew it was pointless to engage with him, so I silently turned my back on him.
"Hey, wait a minute."
"I told you, it's none of your business. Don't talk to me."
Huh, that attitude of yours is a problem. Actually, I've been assigned to work at this university hospital starting today. My achievements at my previous job have been recognized. I'll also be given an important position. Isn't it in your best interest to be polite to me?
I'd rather give birth to a baby at home than be polite to you.
Why is someone like you even coming to this hospital? This is a high-class hospital with only the best doctors, favored by celebrities. A neighborhood clinic is enough for a middle-aged woman like you to get a prenatal checkup.
Certainly, this hospital is reputed as one of the best in the industry. But that doesn't mean it's exclusively for the rich and famous, and all the doctors here are honest and hard-working people.
What kind of man are you trying to seduce this time? Did you lure another young man?
That's none of your business.
It's probably another man weak enough to fall for a middle-aged woman like you, just like me.
I was only trying to support you. I never took advantage of your weaknesses. As expected, you're still the worst person.
The worst is your current husband, marrying an old woman like you and even impregnating you. He must be a total loser, a worthless man who's only fit for someone like you.
The surrounding people became restless at the words uttered by my ex-husband. In addition to patients, many staff members such as doctors and nurses were coming and going in the hospital corridor. Most of them fell silent as if they had sensed something. I turned back to my ex-husband and spoke in a quiet voice. "I told you, it's none of your business. Don't talk to me."
Is a pregnant old woman really that embarrassing? Then you shouldn't have gotten pregnant in the first place. You're so shallow, both you and your stupid husband.
That's enough. Don't insult my husband any further. It won't do any good for you.
Don't talk so high and mighty. Who's your stupid husband anyway?
My current husband is the son of the hospital director. After saying that, I could see Floyd's face contorting. I thought to myself what a stupid guy he was. But my ex-husband's gaze had already passed my face and turned to the end of the hallway. A deliberate cough echoed through the hallway. When I turned around, I saw a familiar face. A father-in-law. No, director.
Director? I've heard what happened. This hallway carries sound so well, you know.
Father-in-law. What about him?
Leave it to me and my son. We can't just let this man's behavior go unpunished. Wait a minute, I didn't do anything. You can make your excuses in my office. We need to discuss what to do with you moving forward.
The following story was told to me by my current husband after everything was over. My current husband, who is also a doctor working at the hospital, was introduced to me by the owner of a diner where I used to work. Although I said we met by chance, the truth is that I was introduced to my current husband by the owner of a local diner I used to work at. The owner knew that I had gone through a divorce and introduced me to one of his irregular customers who happened to be a doctor. Unlike my ex-husband, my current husband never brought up my age or looks, and I felt genuinely relieved to have met him. According to what my current husband told me, after the incident in the hallway, my ex-husband was taken to the office of the hospital director. The director, my ex-husband, and my current husband had a 2-hour interrogation session.
Your remarks are simply unacceptable.
At the opening of the meeting, the director, my father-in-law, said in a cold voice,
Let's put your personal preferences aside for now. Whether you dislike older women or are infatuated with younger ones, that is your personal matter. It's not something the hospital needs to be aware of. But the biggest problem is that you made derogatory remarks in front of other patients, calling an older pregnant woman disgusting. Well, but of course, this university hospital has a department of obstetrics and gynecology. Many pregnant women come here, carrying their hopes and fears for childbirth. Among them, there are many who are worried about having a baby at an older age.
Here, Gavin, now my husband, joined the conversation.
I'm an OB/GYN. My wife Zoe was anxious about having a baby at 37, so I offered to do the tests on her myself. That's why they go to our hospital. Let me be clear. Childbirth at my wife's age is not uncommon. You, as a fellow doctor, didn't even understand such a thing. As a doctor, no, as a person, I cannot forgive someone like you. Yes, you are right. You owe Zoe an apology as a person first. Every woman of any age has the right to give birth. It's our job as doctors to do everything we can to support that. You have underestimated that. Not only that, you hurt Zoe with your cold words.
My flustered ex-husband countered with a blue face.
That woman, Zoe, she was my wife. She talked me into things when I was feeling down. So I'm the victim here. I was tormented until we got divorced. I have every right to say bad things and complain a little. I've heard the stories from my wife. You used cruel words and apparently hurt her in the past. But she never said a bad word about you. And do you know why? Because she doesn't care about you and is already moving forward with her life. Moving forward? As her current husband, I demand that you stay away from my wife from now on. Your existence is only harmful to her, especially with your prejudice against women. As a hospital, we cannot overlook what you have done. You were supposed to start working here today, right? Well, you're fired from our hospital effective immediately. What? I'm telling you that you're fired. Remove your hospital badge immediately. Are you kidding me? You can't just act so tyrannically just because you're the director. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to banish you because I'm Zoe's father-in-law. I judged that your personality is not suitable for our hospital. That's a lie! My career as a doctor... If you have a complaint, you can take it to court or wherever you want. However, be prepared that in that case, Your future career will also be over. Damn it! How could this happen? How could this happen?
In the end, my ex-husband left the university hospital that day.
I was wrongfully fired.
Was what Floyd was screaming until the end, but the fact that other patients heard his outburst was the decisive reason for his dismissal. Several of the patients were older than I was and were about to also give birth.
You can rest assured that you will have a healthy baby in our hospital.
My current husband is an obstetrician. While receiving his examination, I decided to face forward and focus solely on giving birth, just as he had suggested. 4 months later, our baby was born safely. A healthy boy. I hope he grows up to be a kind human being who doesn't discriminate against people based on their age or appearance. I think he will be okay since he is the child of my current husband. After the baby was born, I visited the cafeteria where I used to work, and the owner told me about my ex-husband's current situation. Apparently, rumors spread quickly in a cafeteria where doctors gather. It seems that even after being fired from the university hospital, he is having trouble finding employment at other hospitals because of the circumstances surrounding his dismissal. He is now doing occasional part-time work and living day by day. Kate, his second partner, was seen once taking a bag to a pawn shop. She looked so worn out in contrast to her wedding photos. Still, there was no doubt that the bag was a brand that my ex-husband had previously given her as a gift. Anyway, it's all in the past now. What matters most to me is taking care of our baby, and despite the challenges, we are living happily every day.